Half a day, my name is Catherine Doe, and this is my curriculum portfolio for ED661, Second Language Curriculum Theory and Development. So I'm going to first start off with my needs analysis before going into my SMART goals, curriculum map, and my 5 lesson plans. So you can see the outline of lesson plans here, like what it focuses on, and the date of execution for each of them. So starting off with my needs analysis, this is meant for first graders, so it does look a little bit childish, and this is not something that they would do independently. I would probably go over it with them, and I make a lot of use of visuals, as you can see here, just so that when I ask the question and they have to answer yes, somewhat, or no, they know exactly what their answer means. They can look closely to the picture and make the connection. For the next part, we discussed the favorites. This is to get a better idea of what the students are into, and it may help me when I make some of the activities. Then I have the letter recognition, letter sounds, short passage reading, and kindergarten sight word identification. This gives me the ability to see their current level and how much I may need to work with a specific student. Going into my SMART goal worksheet, so by the end of this month-long unit, students will be able to orally identify 65% of the first grade sight words with accuracy. So to verify that my goal is SMART, I want students to be able to identify 65%, which is 31 out of the 48 first grade level sight words, and they'll be able to read the words both in context and on their own, and the following sight words are listed below, right over here. How this goal is measurable is that the final assessment for this unit will be similar to the Ames-Webb ELB assessment for spring 2024, and that's actually where I got these sight words from. Unlike that evaluation though, here students will not be timed, they'll just be tasked with independently reading all the following words. And after every student is assessed, their scores will be calculated and I will see if the goal was met. So how this goal is achievable, I am aware that 65% is not a very high goal, but it is very realistic, especially for my class that struggles in literacy. So because of course my school uses Journeys, I will be making use of the Journeys resources. Those will be my primary supplements. But I will also be creating a lot of teacher-made activities. And why this goal is relevant is that a growing problem at my school is that students are leaving primary and going to 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade unable to read. And of course, I don't want that. If you look at why the goal is important to me, is I want my students to be able to read at grade level. I don't want them to be going into the intermediate grade struggling to read even the most basic of sight words. So this goal, I'm aiming for it to be completed by April 29. And the benefits of achieving it would be that my kids will leave first grade reading at grade level. So if you look here at my potential obstacles, we have the potential solutions on the right. Some of the potential obstacles is that my English language learners may be struggling with the phonemic awareness, needing to recognize these words and stories. My advanced students can overtake class discussions which silence my struggling students. The class may be showing significant struggles as a whole, and students may have poor attendance. So you can see my potential solutions on the right. The people that will help me achieve this goal would be my first grade team. And if you look here at my specific action steps, I have a total of 5 assessments, with the last one being the final overall assessment, and these are my expected completion dates. So going into my curriculum map, throughout this 5-week-long unit, students will be introduced to 48 different sight words. Excluding the final week, they will be introduced to 12 words at a time. So you can see the specific words that they will be looking at over here in the skills area. For the assessments, that will happen at the end of every week, but I'll get further into that in the lesson plans. And for my resources, you can see here that I focus primarily on Journeys. The final week, instead of introducing them to a new set of sight words, it is more of a review of everything they've learned. So going into my first lesson plan, each of these lesson plans is a week long with approximately 1 hour a day. For the very first one, I'm introducing the first 12 sight words. For their lesson objectives and student-friendly language is to be able to read these words. So for the anticipatory set, I introduce it first, ask students if they're familiar with it. For their warm-up, I have the I can statements, and we discuss why we're even bothering to learn these words and the importance behind it. For my introduction, I have a sound review, so I'm introducing some of the sounds that can be found commonly in the sight words. For my first person technique, I have a sound it out, read it, and repeat. In this area, I will be sounding out each of the phonemes and the words, and I will repeat the sounds before blending them, and after I do this, the students will repeat after me. I also have some sentences where the sight words are used in context. For my next present technique, I have the journeys. Here, for the journeys textbook story, it is animal groups, and for the decodable reader stories, I have the race and the nice vet. Here is where they read their sight words more in context. For my guided practice, I have a assignment where we create sentences together as a class using these sight words. For my check for understanding, I do have these charts at the front of the classroom. I will explain to students what each of the numbers mean on a scale of 1, 2, 3, 4, and throughout the lesson, I will check for their level of understanding, and I will ask them to raise the number of fingers depending on what level they are, 1, 2, 3, or 4, and if any ones or twos are identified, the lesson may be extended in order to reteach concepts. For my scan and feedback, I will be going around the classroom to observe student work and ensure that they are on task and giving any needed assistance and feedback. My independent practice is 3 times each, in which students write each sight word 3 times each, and I used to think that this was almost a name busy work, but after using it, I see that my students do improve with it. Okay, then I have worksheets for my extension. For my formative assessment, I have my oral assessment 1. So on day 5, which is at the very end of the week, each student will be called into the back of the class where they'll be individually assessed, and I will present them a list of all 12 words, and they will be tasked with reading all the words on the list, and their target is to correctly identify 9 out of the 12 words, which is 75%. You see that as we go on, that percentage gets lower with the amount of words, sight words rising. So students who are unable to achieve this goal will receive further one-on-one assistance and, if possible, or if necessary, practice worksheets. For my closure, we have a review of the I can statements in which we discuss if students have achieved it. Here are my accommodations and modifications and my materials and resources. For my second lesson plan, again, it is 1 week, and I introduce the next 12 sight words. For the anticipatory set, we review the sight words that were learned the previous week. For our warm-up, we go over the I can statements. For our introduction, we do a sound it out. As you can see here, it's similar to the last lesson plan, and you will see that in each of the lesson plans just because my students need this routine in order to be able to go on to the next task without any struggle. So after the sound it out, we have the journeys. We're still on animals group, except now we have new decodable reader stories. For my present technique, I have a YouTube video by Jack Hartman. It is a sight word song, and this interactive video encourages students to say and sing 8 of the sight words. And the teacher, or I will play this for students to follow along too. For my guided practice, I have another create sentences assignment, and I also have a memory match in which students will be put into pairs, and they will each receive 12 cards and will take turns with their partner trying to find matching pairs. And once a student matches a pair, they will read the word to their partner and put it to the side to claim it, and whoever claims the most pairs by the end of the game will win. So I have the same check for understanding, the same feedback and pinpoint. My independent practice again is 3 times each, and then some worksheets for the advanced for extension. My formative assessment is oral assessment number 2, and on day 5, students will be individually assessed. Now they need to identify at least 18 out of 24 of their sight words. And then for my closure is going over the I can statements again. For my third lesson plan, I am introducing the next 12 sight words. So by the end of this lesson, they would have been introduced to 36 sight words. Okay, and this is that. My anticipatory set are the words that they were previously taught, the I can statements for the warm-up. Again, we're sounding it out, and then we're going into journeys. For my next present technique, I have sight word search and word SWOT. So for the sight word search, I have the 12 sight words written on index cards placed around the classroom, and students have to find them, and once all the cards have been found, they read it to the class. And then I have the sight word SWOT, in which I write, here it would be 10 of the sight words, and I project it for the students to see. I give 2 students, or I call up 2 students at a time, give them each a fly swatter. I say a word, and they have to challenge the other in swatting the word. For my guided practice, I have the create sentences assignment, and then I have making their sight words out of clay. So as you can see over here, I will have a sheet of paper for each student that I will personalize by writing through the sight words for each particular student. And they will also receive some sticks of clay, and they will use the clay to form their 3 sight words, and once they're finished, they will show it to the teacher and practice reading the words. So here you can see the words that I wrote for them and how they molded it with clay. So we have the scan, circular feedback, the independent practice, extension. For the formative assessment, that now they need to be able to identify at least 65% of their sight words, which is 25 out of 36. My closure is a review of the ICANN statements. My 4th lesson plan is for week 4. This is the last 12 sight words that will be introduced to them. So by the end of this lesson, they will have been introduced to all 48 sight words. So we have the usual ICANN statements sounded out, then we have journeys, and then another YouTube video by Jack Hartman, though this one is different from the last one. For the guided practice, I have creating sentences as well as anagrams. My students really enjoy anagrams. The only problem is that for me, it takes quite a while to prep it. But it's a good way for them to practice their spelling of the sight words. Then my check for understanding, independent practice and worksheets. And then for this oral assessment here, they need to correctly identify at least 60% of the words, and that's 29 out of the 48. Then for the review is going over the ICANN statements and if they can achieve them. So for my final lesson plan, we introduced already all of the 48 sight words, so now it's more a review of going over the sight words again and an end of activities that they've already done. So here you can see their ICANN statement is just, I can read all of my sight words. So it's going over everything that was already introduced to them, their ICANN statement, and then some story reviews of stories that they've previously read, just so they can solidify their identification of the sight words in context. For my present technique, I have Heads Up 7-Up and Pom Pom Search. For the Heads Up 7-Up, it's the usual game, only now when a student guesses who picked them, instead of calling the name of the student, that student will be holding a index card with a sight word on it, and the other student has to read the sight word instead of saying their name. For the Pom Pom Search, I will have these cups on the floor. Underneath some of them are a pom-pom, but on all of them are sight words written on it. And students have to choose a cup by reading the sight word on it, pick the cup up, and see if there's a pom-pom underneath. For my second present technique, I have the sight word search and word SWAT, which, as I said, was already done earlier throughout the unit. So they're already familiar with it, so it shouldn't take as long, like explaining instructions, because now they know what to do. For the sight word search, they find the words around the classroom, and for word SWAT, they just challenge one other person in swatting the words. For the guided practice, this is again something they've done. We have the anagrams again, and the clay. And then if we go down to the final assessment, now students have to reach their target goal, which is to correctly identify at least 65% of the words, and that is 32 out of the 48 words. And so that is the overall goal for the unit. That is what we are trying to achieve. And so closure, review, we go over the ICANN statements again. However, if for some reason we do the final assessment and I see that students still haven't achieved that 65%, this unit may be extended just by a little longer, so we're able to do it as opposed to just moving on. Maybe the students can get it. I want to be able to make sure that the students can identify at least 65% of the sight words. And that is our final goal. So this is my curriculum portfolio. It is 5 weeks long. Thank you very much.